We're here with Lucy. It is training session number 3, so I have decided to incorporate some pole work into today's training session. So while Lucy is not destined to be a jumping horse, jumping is great cross training for developing the canter and developing the jump in the canter. So the future plan is for her to do some small obstacles on the long reins, and she will be doing some working equitation, which does involve some very small cross rails, so better that we prepare her for that on the long reins in the cooler lunge than under saddle. So as you can see, Lucy is still falling on that right shoulder a little bit, but we'll work on that. The poles will actually help to get her straighter as well, because it gives her something to aim for and to line up to. So this is Lucy's literal first time going over trot poles. I have walked her over the poles as part of her warm down. This is her first time going over trot poles, and we do end up cantering over them. So we want to make this experience as positive as possible for Lucy and to develop it. So rather than doing a line of trot poles today, or trot and canter poles, I've set them up on the circle for her. So it saves me resetting things up, because if she was just doing trot poles and canter poles in a line, I'd have to set them further apart, move them around. This is a nice simple way of doing it without having to reorganize everything. Now, utilizing the trot and canter poles helps to engage the hindquarters. It gets the back end quicker, which will then actually help with the canter transition, because right now when Lucy goes into canter, she goes quite hollow into canter and wants to canter in a hollow frame. So what I mean by hollow is she's not lifting her back and engaging her thoracic sling, and she's just traveling, not on the bit. So what happened there is Lucy was starting to run through the poles, and she's actually, rather than lifting her legs and placing her feet over the poles, was just knocking them. So the half halts weren't working, which is why I brought her back to halt and then regrouped and asked her to go again. So one of the other issues that Lucy's rider has been having under saddle is that she was getting a little bit rushy. So again, the poles can help to develop that even rhythm and tempo, and then you can combine some transitions into working with the poles, along of course with some changes of flexion and bend and changes of direction. So no matter what you're doing, you're always looking to develop that straightness. So your training scale is rhythm, looseness, contact, impulsion, straightness, and then collection. We are nowhere near touching on collection yet. However, we are trying to develop the rhythm, the looseness, the contact, the impulsion, and the straightness. So if you have a look at that training scale on those list of items, there's actually little arrows that keep going back and forth through that training scale. So it's not you create one, then you get the next thing, then you get the next thing. They're all intertwined. So in order to get impulsion, you need the horse to be straight, otherwise it's losing power. And as you can see, Lucy's not straight at the moment. She is still falling on that right shoulder and wanting to lead with that right shoulder. So I'm still doing lots of little steadies with my outside rein to keep her out on the circle, and then vibrating my right rein. And then I am expecting her, good job there, to place her feet over the pole. So if she's looking out, is traveling a bit hollow, not paying attention to what she's doing, that's when she's going to start knocking the poles, moving them, and losing the rhythm and tempo. Or getting hurried. At least she stepped over that pole quite nicely then. Good girl. So you can see her back is starting to lift up now, and she's was getting more engagement in the trot, which is why I've now moved her into the canter. And I'm starting with one pole because this is like a whole new exercise for Lucy. So trying to move her from a circle of trot poles to a circle of canter poles is a little bit of an ask for a horse that's never done trot and canter poles before. I am also making the exercise easier by doing it on the long reins in the cooler lunge first. And yes, Lucy did have some issues with picking up the correct canter lead today. The reason she's not picking up the right canter lead correctly is because she's falling on that right shoulder. Her hindquarters are swinging out. So the left hind leg, being the strike off leg, is not staying under her to strike off. So she's striking off on the incorrect canter lead. But because she is starting to engage more with her hindquarters, she is actually starting to self-correct. And the poles can actually help with that self-correction, as you saw there. Now that's a better flexion and bend, clearly over the canter pole and placing her feet. And you can see her mum in the corner working. And here's my extremely helpful goat Henry. So what Henry likes to do is get into the middle of the lunge circle and utilize the long reins as horn scratches. As I've said before, and I'll say again, I don't work in an insular environment. If Henry wants to come on the arena, Henry can come on the arena, as long as he does not get in the way of Lucy. That is something that I do have an issue with, is if the dogs or the goats come on, they cannot get in the way of what's happening. Now, this whole training session was actually like 25 minutes, so I've edited it down to 11 minutes, not because I'm cutting out the bad stuff, but because I can't talk for 25 minutes and I didn't have my earbuds in. Now, Lucy was just running on a little bit there, which is why I'm bringing her back and making her wait. Her reverse mechanism is excellent. I've barely got any contact on the long reins there. I'm using the reverse to get her, getting her to back up, to get her back end under her and to make her steady and listen to me. There's no value in her charging around the arena and not paying attention to what she's doing and then like falling over the pole, scattering it. And you can see there she's going a little to the outside rather than placing herself over the center of the pole. Now I am at the end of a set of long reins, so I can only position her so much. The rest is actually up to her. If she doesn't want to go over the pole, she's not going to go over the pole. As you can see there, she is running out of the outside shoulder a little bit. So it is up to her to position herself. In fact, it's probably a little bit more difficult to position a horse over a pole from the long reins than it is if you're on their back. And now I've let the long rein, the outside long rein, go slack because it slipped up under her tail. I'm very happy that she's not reacting adversely to that. But it's not where I want the long rein. It's not where it gives me that point of contact on her mouth to utilize as an outside rein. So the easiest way is just to let it go slack, let her relax her tail and let it slip down. And you'll see there now I've got control again, so I can start to try and shape her so she's not falling out of that outside shoulder. And then sometimes the change of, whoopee, Jesus, it's a little exciting, a little disunited, a little wild, whoop. It's perhaps going to be a little bit wild to start with, but she is actually going over the poles rather than scattering them, which is good. And now we're starting to develop some rhythm and tempo on the circle, and she's lining herself up. So the last thing you want is to be either towed around the arena on the end of the long reins or to have a death grip on them so that you're spinning them around, because they're so difficult to turn. So having the cooler lunge on helps with that, because the side reins create support with the outside rein and the system does rotate. But even so, if they're not balanced and they're going to get strung and fall out of the outside shoulder, then they're going to go. So you need to train them not to lug off the end of the long reins. Good girl, Lucy. So interestingly, she's actually developing more in the right canter than the left, even though I would feel technically her left side should be better. But she's definitely getting more balance to the right than the left. And we're just, she is definitely, so I've just got that long outside rein up under her tail. It just doesn't sit in the right spot. And you can see that the hindquarter slings now come up as well under her tail. And so that actually happens when they start pulling on the side reins. So it's pretty much impossible for them to brace, because what happens is the hindquarter sling comes up, and you'll see she's scattered the poles. I've got to fix the poles as well. So yeah, when they start to brace against the side reins in the cooler lunge, the hindquarter sling comes up under their tail, and then you've got no choice but to stop and regroup and fix it. It won't just slide back down. So for all of those people that say that the horse is bracing, it can't, I'm afraid. We're just going to give this one more go so that we're finishing on a good note, because that was a little bit of a wild episode. That's a better canter. So now that we've got that better rhythm and tempo in the canter, we are going to just finish off a little bit of work and trot. I haven't bothered to keep that on the video. If you found this helpful, please subscribe to our channel for a lunch. Thank you for watching.